Hey Scott, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. How you been, Ollie?
Yeah, really well, thanks. Yeah, doing pretty good. It's sunny over here in Portugal. Getting some surfs in, so yeah, I can't complain. And
Uh,
you're
yeah,
over in the office, right, at the
yeah.
moment?
We're in Newport. We have a little bit of a swell in the water today too. So hopefully, I'll be getting out there either later today or definitely over the weekend. But we were also
Nice.
watching Lakey right now in the finals going
I
against
know.
Steph. So I know we're doing this. So you're gonna have to keep me posted if she pulls off a victory for us.
Yeah, and how's everything been going? Like
It's
with the
it's
brand and
so it's going great. I think it's just refreshing. I feel like everybody, I feel like we're just starting because, we launched our brand in 2019 going into 20, right when COVID hit. I mean, like
yeah,
literally March is when beverage season starts, and March 1 was when we were about to roll out. And we did roll out, and that's the crazy part. We rolled out with our partners with Dr. Pepper, and the world shut down for a couple of years. And when you're a beverage company trying to launch a brand, you got to get people to taste it. That's like the secret, and everyone likes it, and then they eventually buy it. And so I'm just excited. Yeah, this year feels like we're just finally getting to get after it and really have a full year of just activations and
yeah,
just really let the brand go. So
nice,
yeah, it's good. It's
cool.
good times for us and exciting. Summer's beverage time.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I'd love to kind of jump back into that a bit later, if that's okay. But
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
going back before that, I mean, you got into the beverage industry quite early, right? And you were like founded one of your companies. Was that almost like straight after college, or?
Yeah, it was. It was kind of. It's funny. I don't think you grow up. You don't like. I never thought like I'm gonna be in the beverage business, right? So I kind of stumble in. You stumble in. I stumbled into it literally. I got out of college and was bouncing around jobs. I was always into marketing. I had a bunch of growing up in Orange County. I was surrounded by all my buddies. When you got out of high school, you either went to work at Quicksilver, Billabong. Then it was
Yeah,
Hurley and Volcom and those are all my friends that were starting all these cool surf brands here in my backyard. So pretty much every one of my friends worked for one of those companies at some point. And I kind of, I was doing a lot of PR, did some stuff for a bunch of my friends' startups and kind of loved that part of marketing and took off, started traveling a bunch. I was traveling all over the world, surfing with a buddy. We were in Europe for a few months. And then when I was on a Costa Rica run for about 3 months, a good friend of mine, this girl I went to college with, her dad, was trying to get a hold of me. Back then, you just had payphones, right? So I remember calling my
yeah,
mom on a payphone in Costa Rica, and she goes, "Hey, Dan the Clark's trying to get a hold of you." And I was like, "Huh?" And so I remember calling him, just surfed Witches Rock that morning. I remember calling from a payphone in Liberia, and he told me all about this Hispanic beverage company he started called Bahia. And he goes, "Hey, why don't you come back and run this thing and work with me on this project?" And it was like a Mexican Snapple. Like Snapple was really big back then.
okay.
So it was like, and I was like, hey, the waves are really good. How about I come back in 2 weeks? I finally got a job and I'm not like on a plane. Then I'm like, I'll be right back. It was like, man, there's a good swell right now. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
How old were you? Was this like sort of early
That was
twenties around then,
about, yeah, it
or?
was about 25, I think, at the time,
Okay.
right about then. So, I got out of college, floated around a bit, like just trying to figure it all out. And so I literally came back from that trip and I remember meeting him at the office and we drove out to this bottling plant. Like the first day they were running the product and it was in
Yeah.
these glass bottles. We had 16 ounce. It was the cap. And I just walked in this bottling plant and they're just like ripping this product. And, he made me a partner in the company and it was just amazing run. And I literally just started learning the business. And the cool thing with Dan, him and his brother were in the flavor business for a long time. So they developed flavors for Nestle and Perrier back in the day, like all the essences that
Okay.
go into the project. So not only was I helping, run the business, but we had a lab at the office. So him and his brother and we'd make the flavors. So I'd learn how to, you know, come up with these concoctions and we were putting
Yeah.
juice and flavor. And so I kind of really got exposed to every facet of the business through these guys. And that was about an 8-year run. We kept that brand going, eventually took it over from Dan and then ended up selling it. And it was funny because it was a Hispanic product. So I always thought about doing something that was more relatable to me. obviously. And right after that, I started a brand called 24C, which was like an emergency vitamin C packet.
Right.
So if you were traveling, remember everyone would take your emergencies and you put them in your water. And
yeah.
And I was kind of looking at that space and I was like, God, that's like this cult brand. I found I was doing just, like crazy numbers. And I was like, how come nobody else has one? And so I made one that was cooler, little travel packs, little vitamin C. And that was about a year into it. I met Peter Van Stoke at Jones Soda back when Jones Soda was like the coolest brand. They were selling all those cool root beers and guys were running around in jumpsuits and driving cool vans. And he was out of Seattle and he loved the branding and just the trademark. And so again, I had another quick little exit. I sold it to Jones Soda right after year one and kind of had a nice little run with those.
Oh, wow. That quickly.
Yeah, it was so funny. It was like I just started and, the packaging was really cool. I got into all these boutique hotels up in LA and I literally had like 50 accounts. I was just kind of getting the thing rolling. And I was at the Natural Product Expo here. They have every year in Anaheim. And I showed it to somebody and they were like, it's like right when vitamin water was just kind of starting to take off back then. Trying to think of what year that puts us at, early 2000. But, and then, so Peter was trying to get into the vitamin water space. He had Jones, but he didn't have like another kind of product to compete against vitamin water. And he just thought my brand and the trademark would be a great platform to go make a drink. It was a powder at the time. Yeah. So it was kind of like, I felt like with the offer on the table a year into it, I was kind of like, this would be pretty nice. I just, if I could do this and come up with ideas and then flip them pretty quick, I go, that's not a bad strategy. So I kind of thought, either take the heavy lifting and go build the thing or kind of partner with him. And it was cool. It was a good move for me. And yeah, we ended up making the drink he talked about and we crushed it for a while with him. It was, so it was fun.
And then after that was, then
there's another one.
Another drink.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I can do this again.
Kind of, that's this. Yeah, it was, so it was kind of, the good one with that, it was cool because I had a consulting gig with him. There's a little bit of a royalty scenario, which kept me good for a few years. So I actually got back on the travel bug a bit and I was able to go on a couple good trips and kind of hang for a bit and trying to figure out what next. And then another good friend of mine in the beverage space was running one of the non-alc divisions at a Bud distributor here, Budweiser. And he wanted to start creating brands for them. They were selling a lot of non-alcohol brands for them, not their own private label brands or their own company brands. So offered me a gig to come over and do that for them. And I came up with a product called Pre. And again, this one was probably way ahead of its time because probiotics now and prebiotics and all the gut health, is so popular now. So I had a probiotic drink before, anybody. It was a prebiotic powder supplement that I was using, a fiber that helps with digestive health and great trademark. I remember going into grocery stores, we were selling and they were just like, what? And I was like, it's the food that feeds like the stomach. And then it's like, and now it's like every drink is probiotics and prebiotics and everyone was talking about it. And so started that with those guys. And then probably about 3 or 4 years into it, I sold that brand to Hansen's. Okay. And Hansen's started Monster. And so that's what kind of got me into this business.
And then when you then moved over to Monster, did you go straight into like innovation? Was that sort of what you were working on?
No, you know what? It was
what happened?
Yeah, it was cool. So it was interesting because it was like Hansen's. It was called Hansen's, and you had Monster down the hall. And so originally coming in, obviously I was there to work on help transition my brand into the Hansen's portfolio, and then and I remember one day it was like, oh yeah, you got to meet Mark Hall, and Mark Hall's the guy down the hall who kind of runs Monster. And I think I met Mark and we just hit it off, and he brought me over he goes, you got to come over and help me on the monster side, coming up with ideas and products. And it was just at the time, I remember it was a really, and it stayed that way the whole time I was there, but the innovation side of the monster business is real coveted space between, it was like Rodney, Mark, and my counterpart, Eva, who she was kind of our scientist and really the expert on all the nutrition and the formulation stuff. And it was like us, it was this little 4-pack, like coming up with all the ideas and the flavors. So, it took me a little bit to gain, to get Mark's trust and kind of get into that little circle with him. And it took like one road trip that we had together. But I think after that, we were pretty good. I kind of locked in and just had an amazing run. Working.
What was the size of the company when you first started there?
Yeah, when I started, we were, I want to say, just over 500 million. Like it was under $1 billion. And so we were in like about the 700 million range, I think, when I came on board, 7, 8. Because I remember when we hit the $1 billion, it was just like, whoa, it's kind of like a pretty big day for everybody at Monster. It was pretty amazing. And then just, it's just an incredible company today too. So, it went from the US, and when the Coke thing happened, and Coke came in and bought a big piece, and the global expansion really kind of kicked into high gear. And so we were working on all the products for the entire world, really out of our offices in Corona. We created all the formulas, whether it be for Spain or Portugal or Costa Rica or wherever it was, like all the monster products. Because, Rodney really wanted that Monster Green product to taste the same anywhere you were in the world. And so a lot of that was really tricky because each country had different regulations with vitamins or certain ingredients. And so every time you change an ingredient, the taste changes. And so we're always chasing that gold standard. And then coming up with unique things in each country, whether it be in Europe, we did some cool stuff with like Valentino Rossi, the MotoGP guy. We made a signature flavor for him that was pretty much a knock on Orangina. We were like, what flavor do you like? And he loved Orangina. We were all like, oh, that's the staple, And I think that was probably one of the better products we made. It was pretty good. So,
and how many do you think you made during that time, for different regions? And
man, it's hundreds. Because it was interesting the way Mark's brain worked. We would have so many projects going that people, no idea. And then it was almost like for the US stuff, it's like we had all these balls in the air, and it'd just be like, which one would finally land on, it'd be like, whether it's Java and we were doing coffee, or, when the ultra thing happened and it was like, are we going to do a new zero sugar, so it was constantly like we had 2 days a week. We would spend Tuesdays and Thursdays. We had a couple flavor houses that we kind of let compete against each other. One we eventually bought, or Monster ended up buying. The other one was one of the biggest flavor companies in the industry, Wild. And it was good because you needed to have the balance. You couldn't have one because then everything starts tasting the same. So you kind of you play them off of each other, and you give them both the same brief. And then Tuesdays I would have Wild come in, and it's about a 2-3 hour tasting, and people would come in. There's bottles down the table. We're just. I think I'm immune to caffeine at this point. I literally could drink anything. And so but it was that was the times where, Mark's in there, Rodney, myself, and not only were we tasting, but just talking strategy. They were talking about everything else business related. But so Tuesdays and Thursdays were just days where we just taste products and, figure out which one, tiny adjustments, and then come back next week and taste. But I love that stuff. It's fun.
And then would it sort of would you guys do research and kind of get the public to then taste it before sort of launching? You were like, okay, we're kind of pretty set on this flavor. Let's go and
it's funny because I think what we always prided ourselves is never asked anybody because we were like, it's going to go down to what Rodney and Mark, which one Rodney ends up liking. And it was so funny. People would always come and like, so, did you do all this consumer research? And we would laugh. We were just like, oh yeah, we did a lot. Yeah. I asked Rodney and Mark, and we both all said, yeah, that's probably a good idea. We're going to do it. And it's funny because when I came in, to this new set up here at A SHOC with Dr. Pepper, it's there is so much. Everybody's always getting data and Mintel, and you're like, and I'm just like, huh? I mean, I just kind of go off my gut, you know. It's like you kind of know what's going on, and you're like, huh? You kind of go shop, you go to stores, you go to Whole Foods. Like I always kind of looked in the natural space, and I'm a total shopper, you know. Like that's kind of what I do. I just go scour shelves. I would always be looking at stuff and kind of looking at flavors and going, oh, what's that? You know, look at seltzers, look at the alcohol space. You get inspired by different categories and you see trends, especially with flavors or things. And that's kind of how we always did it. And then we just go for it, you know, and then that's what we would do. But yeah, no one was like bringing us some report, like, you know, and saying like, you know, here's all this research now. It says people 18 to 25 really like lemonade. And it's like, oh, okay. So, you know, yeah, so no, Monster was, I don't think there's anything like it. And, you know, just continued to evolve. But we pushed the category. I mean, if you think about it, we forced Red Bull into creating flavors. I mean, Red Bull was a blue and silver can, and they just couldn't hold that space anymore. I think because of all the innovation that we did at Monster, we just pushed the category. And that was how we expanded the shelf, because it was like juices and then zero sugars and then coffee and then hydro. And, you know, we just kept demanding more and more space. But it's like what Red Bull ran into is they couldn't do it anymore with just that same can. So eventually they had to come up with flavors, because it was like, so now you can put your flavor here and another flavor here, and there's reason to evolve. So
interesting.
Yeah, so it was but that was it. And then it transitioned to A SHOC, because, you know, that was probably, you know, kind of bringing to speed here, like to today, it was this new category that emerged, right? Performance energy.
So was that the gap then that you saw, and you were like, okay, this is something that?
Yeah, it was, you know, what happened is it was crazy. For the first time, right, you're in a space where it's Monster, Red Bull and Rockstar pretty much, right? So, you know, and it was Monster and Red Bull had, you know, 80 share, you know, 85. I mean, and then Rockstar would have like 5, and then everybody else had like 10%. Like that's the category. And it was just, you go to a liquor store, it's like a door of Monster, a door of Red Bull, half a door of Rockstar, and then half a door of everybody else. Yeah. And, so, and it was untouchable, really. Like I just tell people, you're crazy if you think you're going to get in the energy business, because there's no space for you. And because of the amount of volume that those 3 brands would do, it was hard for a liquor store to validate putting something else on the shelf anyway, because you can't hit those kind of turns anyway. But this brand Bang came out. It had been out for a while, but repackaged a few times, and came out of the gym space. And it was supplement based, and we kind of saw it creeping into some 7-Elevens, and we all started taking notice because it was hitting some pretty big numbers. Yeah. And then we found out that it was the 7-Eleven across from the 24-hour fitness. And so you're like,
okay, so it was trying to do that sort of like,
well, you were like
that geolocation with gyms and stuff. And
or just if we find out, people are coming in and buying it, going to the gym. And we started picking up on who this shopper was. And the numbers started getting crazy. And I think, you know, at that time, I remember talking to Mark and Ronnie, we were all looking at it. And I was like, you know, this is a whole new customer. And so what was interesting that I was seeing happen is we were still growing. Like we were holding our ground. It wasn't really, other than trying to get into our space, because the way Bang was coming in, they were trying to they're an energy drink, over caffeinated. And they tried to go in to our door. And so they're really disrupting the category for a bit. But it was BCAAs, supposedly creatine, which we all found out wasn't really true at the point. And that's for another longer story, because there's still some litigations and things around the Bang product right now. So, but just call it supplement based. So really kind of gym guys are taking supplements, and then now it's in a form of a drink, and they can drink it. It's higher caffeine, and they could go work out and train. So it's super fitness based. Okay. But it was a whole nother guy. And sure enough, I mean, it was doing at that time, about $200 million. And we were like, as soon as these guys get distribution, this thing's going to blow up. And overnight, once they got their distribution figured out, hit a billion in sales. It was like this new category just out of nowhere pop comes in. And so we quickly started getting, what are we going to do? And we came up with the name Reign. So it's to be like reigning champ. And I was, excited to kind of step into that space. We created that product while I was at Monster. Mm-hmm. And that was, and Mark and I would always have our moments. Like, I'd have an idea, he has an idea, and, going on like 10 years there. And it was like, I think I had a different vision, for what I ultimately thought that product would be. And not to say it wasn't successful. I think we rolled it out. It did about 400 million the first year. Like, that's how prime the space was for this new category that was emerging. And Bang was the only one sitting in there at the time. And we knew if we just played a card, it's just like, we're going to take this other huge chunk. So it was such a hot category that was just happening. And so Reign launched, super successful launch. And right about that same time, a really good friend of mine, who I'm partners with now, Lance Collins, who's just, 5-time champ. I mean, he started NOS back in the day, FUSE, sold both those brands to Coke, was founder of BodyArmor that just recently sold to Coke for like 8 billion, I think, is the final number, but just an amazing guy. And he started Core Water and just sold Core Water to Dr. Pepper. And he was getting into the energy game. And so I ended up leaving Monster, partnered up with Lance, and then we put a deal together with Dr. Pepper straight out the gate, really, for a national distribution deal, and launched A SHOC. And at the time, it was called Adrenaline Shoc, was the name, and then we evolved.
Wow, and like, how was that like? And then kind of going back to what you were saying before. I mean, launching at that time, right?
It was, well, I mean, it was like, I look at it now, it's kind of like the blessing and the curse was having an incredible you have a national distribution partner. So it's always about distribution. It's like, you got a great product, but you don't have distribution. And for us, it was, all of a sudden we had this access to national distribution overnight in a category that I just told you about that was so hot that I knew even if we could be the next guys to make a play, we're going to go in and take a little piece of that. So everybody, when we went out in 19, you're out basically meeting all the retailers. Everyone's excited that now Dr. Pepper has a play in it. They know I'm behind it. Lance is behind it. So everybody's like, we're going to put our bets on this one. Yeah. So pretty much everyone took it. So we had overnight, you're in 50,000 plus stores the next year. That's kind of how big of a, like, the reach these guys have. And because if you want, and then 7-Eleven, and then till all of a sudden March 1 hits and the world shuts down and you're sitting on all these shelves and it's like, it's not moving. People don't know your brand. And, and it's like knowing how you start brands, the best way to start a brand is you do it really good. You make it cool. People find out about it. The next guy finds out about it. You grow from being a cool California brand to the next thing, somebody, in Texas, and you build that story. Whereas we were overnight distribution, didn't really have all the marketing assets to really create that pull. And that's probably been the biggest challenge of launching this brand has been, how do I make a really cool brand, organic growth, build the story, which the brand story is like, to me, that's what people buy into is, they want to be a part of the brand, and the product has to be good and taste good. But again, it's the lifestyle. And that's what Monster sold. Monster sold the lifestyle. It was the high energy and all that. And that's what people bought. And, so then all of a sudden the world shuts down. And if you didn't have a good digital strategy or, and all these things, that it was like, you don't just learn that overnight. And all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm going to be now, how do I market digitally? And, oh, we got Instagram, and you got to, And so
and then trying to sort of shift it to like selling online because people can't go into stores and buy it, right? And or
100%, yeah. And so we, and we had a little business on Amazon, but yeah, we weren't really set up for that direct to consumer market. I mean, we could sell, we had a little setup, but again, you have to market so that you get someone to click on it and then they go. Yeah. And so we've, we weathered the storm really, over those couple of years. But I will say what has been good for us during that time, I feel like we've gotten the brand tuned up. And you always do that, I think, in any beverage. You're always, you're always fine tuning, and it's like, and not too much, but the early couple years, I think, not necessarily flavors, but packaging more so. And I think for us, one of the biggest things is Lance had the trademark Adrenaline Shoc. I always thought right out the gate, it's a long name. It's like Adrenaline Shoc, and
especially on the can, right?
Yeah, it's on the can, but yeah, we had this beautiful mark, our icon, and which I loved, and so it was kind of, I always called it A SHOC. So day one, we're going to call it A SHOC. So we end up A SHOC Energy, ashoc.com, everything's A SHOC, but the can says Adrenaline Shoc. And so you start to kind of think about it. You're marketing A SHOC, but you go to a store, you don't see A SHOC, and you go, and you're just assuming someone's going to go Adrenaline Shoc. That's A SHOC. I bet. Thankfully our icon was big enough on the can, but yeah. So really, over the last couple years, we just last August is when we finally officially switched and found a way to get to A SHOC. Nice. And that in itself to me is like kind of light bulb. You're like, wow, now you're marketing A SHOC. The can says that your product says
everything aligns.
Yeah, your product says A SHOC. Everything aligns. And then we actually, and then you start innovating, and you start doing cool stuff to start doing slimline. So, starts getting my wheelhouse again. I start going, okay, well, we have our core line, and this hot new thing with 12-ounce slim cans is happening. There's a new female consumer now coming into the space that doesn't want the big can. They want a little sexier, cool, slim can. And so we evolved. So the core line, A SHOC, is 200 milligrams of caffeine, has BCAAs, ocean mineral, electrolytes, and really like muscle recovery, all natural caffeine, from yerba mate, guarana, coffee fruit, and green coffee bean. And then the accelerator line, our sub line, the new 12 ounce, I lightened the caffeine down to 150, and it's got a metabolism booster. So it's got a thermogenic in it, which is I'm using an adaptogen blend with ashwagandha, capsaicin, and then EGCG from green tea. So both have a little bit of a different functional. Both have caffeine, so both still energy drink. And started expanding the portfolio. But probably the most significant change we made in the last 2 months was we went NSF certified on all of our products. So we became NSF Sports certified. And really that came out of this last fund round. We just did a big raise that we finished up a couple months ago. But during that, we had, it was kind of Lance after his BodyArmor deal and things, a lot of professional athletes that he attracted kind of were interested in investing and being a part of the brand. One particularly was Aaron Judge from the New York Yankees. We have Freddie Freeman from the Dodgers, Chase Young, who plays for the Washington Commanders. And these pro athletes all wanted to invest, but then we found out like guys that play professional baseball wouldn't be able to drink the product because they get tested so much, so they don't really mess around with energy drinks or supplements that aren't NSF certified. And so we found out, and I was like, well, this is gonna be like Monster days. The whole dirty secret was Monster had all these athletes, but no one drank the product. So you have this brand, and the whole idea when I started A SHOC was to make a product that's healthier and better for you, no sugar, that athletes
that they would drink, right? So
that they could actually drink. I was like, wow, what a concept! Like you actually have a product that guys could actually drink, promote, and actually be a part of it. And the can's not filled with water when they're drinking it at the skate park. And then, hence we started building this athlete program. P-Rod, Lakey, did she win? Do we know?
We'll find out in a minute.
No, so but most significantly, really, that pushed the envelope was the big guys, right? So I sat there going, well, how do we get NSF certified? So we went through the process. It's basically all the testing at the plants, all your ingredients, all the C of A's, every batch you have to go through all this regulation, and basically it means your product's tested and safe to drink, and from all banned substances. And so a guy like Aaron Judge, who plays for the New York Yankees, pretty big deal, can actually drink the product, can actually rep the product. Guy like Freddie Freeman plays for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And so this is like new frontier. And so we just officially became NSF certified. And about 3 months ago, all of our products now have the NSF certification stamp. And, we're now in the midst of filming this big campaign around athletes and athlete approved, and nice. Really kind of hanging our hat on that a bit.
Yeah.
But really, like, brings me kind of to the bigger picture of what A SHOC was. Is the idea for me is when we started it, Bang and Rain were such hardcore gym culture guys. It was kind of like gym rats. But me growing up in the action sports world with all of my friends, I was always thought this intersection, right? It was kind of like, and I was introduced to Billy Kemper through a good friend of mine, Pat Tenori, the founder of RUCA. And he goes, you got to get Billy, and I didn't have any athletes yet. And we were just starting. And he was like, Billy owns a gym on the North Shore. He trains. And I knew who Billy was. I was like, dude, the guy's a beast. And we signed Billy. And it was like, he was like the poster child of kind of what my whole thought was with this brand. It was like, I'm, Bang and Rain are gym guy, bodybuilder dudes. I want to make a brand that's still about fitness and performance and better for you, that taps into the action sports world a bit. Because all these action sports kids nowadays, the evolution, right, of not only the sport, but the athletes themselves, they're all now Olympic sports. These guys train super hard to do what they do. And that because
they have to, right? I mean, the level's gone up so much that if they're not working out, they're going to be left behind. And
yeah, it's the new thing. It's not like when I grew up, it was like Aki and everybody on tour was just raging. It's like, I remember, when the OP Pro would come through Huntington, there was nobody hitting the gym.
Just a big party, right?
Nobody was hitting the gym before the freaking finals. I'll tell you that. You'd be lucky if they made it to the final, if they didn't hang out too late in downtown Huntington like the night before. But yeah, so I feel like, that was the exciting thing for me, and, kind of starting to, see our brand where we kind of tip our toes up into that traditional world where Rebel and Monster play with action sports, but telling a different story now, right? And so same thing when we signed P-Rod, we did this deal, with Thrill One recently, which is obviously finally kicking off this year. We became the official energy drink of Sls Street League skateboarding, presenting sponsor of the Nitro Circus Tour, official energy drink of Rally Car. So amazing partnership that we're just getting started with. But we were like, well, it's gonna be odd being the official energy drink of SLS and not having any guys that actually skate in SLS. So, we were kind of like, do we go for the young guy, up and comer that nobody knows, this next gen? I got introduced to Paul through the guys at Thrill One, and I kind of Paul's at a place in his career too where he's really taking care of his body. He's training. He's the OG. I mean, he's the godfather. Everybody loves him. He's just an awesome guy. And, just for us, I thought really made a nice entrance for us into that sport with somebody so respected and somebody who's really kind of, I think, evolving too as an athlete. But then after that, we pulled in Dashawn Jordan, who is kind of this next gen kid who's going to be competing for the Olympics coming up here and competing for a spot anyway in the Olympics. Yeah. But that's the exciting thing, right? Action sports are all Olympic sports now. These kids are training, and we really feel there's a huge opportunity with A SHOC to really capture that story. Hence this place we built here from the Performance Center.
Yeah, and so what's the idea behind the Performance Center? Is that for sort of for team athletes to then come in and use it, and it's just about that lifestyle, right? And so they kind of
that's it.
They are
Yeah, it
whether
was
it's skaters or surfers, they can come in and.
That was it. It was almost, this was the COVID project too, right? So it was like, okay, what are we doing? You know, we can't market. Everybody's doing things online and training, and we had some space next door that was available, and so we took it over. And to me, it was like kind of the statement piece for the brand. It was like, if we're gonna say this is what we're all about and this is what we care about, it was like, how do we show that and actually live the brand and actually do that? And, you know, and I mean, you know, again, to bring up Pat's name, but, you know, Ruka has an amazing sports facility over there that I always just loved. I know when Pat was doing his thing, it was just, it's such a huge draw over there. And, and with all the guys. And so loved what he did and kind of inspired by what was going on down the street there, and thought, hey, we can build our own performance center here. And so, yeah, you know, we've got the infrared sauna, the little ice plunge, and then obviously all the equipment. But yeah, the idea was to make it a private place for just our athletes to be able to come, train, be comfortable. And that's really what it is. It's just, that's who comes here. And then we brought on, we hired our director of sports performance, Joe Cancelleri, who I also met through Billy Kemper. So again, circle kind of kept getting bigger, and he has brought just, you know, and he trains, you know, an array of athletes from action sports to major league sports. And
so and we've got him here. Let's we can bring him on.
Let's do it.
Go. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm really well, thanks. So Scott was just telling me, like about the gym, and I'd love to hear from you, like, you know, what you're kind of working on with all the athletes there, and just about the facility in general.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys spoke about earlier, I think when I initially met Scott, his vision for the brand and how it really aligns with, you know, fitness and sports performance and just an overall healthy lifestyle. It was refreshing, because there's a lot of other, you know, energy drinks out there that, you know, maybe might say that, but at the end of the day, they're not, you know, they might talk the talk, but not really walking the walk. So I think it was great. It was refreshing when I met Scott, and it was kind of almost a no-brainer. Like he said, we met through Billy Kemper, who I trained for about 3 years prior to meeting him. And yeah, it's really the perfect space. We have, you know, it's private. We have all the equipment you need. We have a recovery. It's almost like that one-stop shop. And I'm able to train all the athletes that I work with, whether, you know, they're MLB, NFL, Supercross, motocross, surf, skate. I'm able to train all those different styles of athletes here.
Nice. And is that sort of training them up? That's sort of like pre-events and contests, right? As well as sort of, you know, recovery and just that whole process.
Yeah, you know, it obviously depends at what point of the season they're in, but you know, I think like you guys spoke about earlier, you know, the level of performance that is present in all sports now, you really can't not train or recover or do prehab or there's so many modalities out there that are beneficial to each and every athlete. So I kind of really, you know, force myself to learn the most I can each and every day, and it helps with me in terms of the athletes I work with and how they benefit, you know, their relationship with me. You know,
I'll jump in because I watch him do this. It's amazing. I mean, you see, you know, a 6'5", you know, 300-pound like football guy in here, and Joe, you know, and the guy's not in here like bench pressing. I mean, the guy's doing like these things, and it's just insane watching Joe work with these guys. And then, you know, and then guys down, and then you get P-Rod in here or Billy, and then just Joe. I always love that just because I think it's always blows me away because it's so unique watching him train this span of athletes, so different, but so unique to each of their thing. It's not like everyone comes in, okay, hit the weights, hit that. It's like it's pretty awesome watching Joe in action.
And would it be like a custom program for every individual athlete? And obviously, you know, it's going to different, like between the different sports, it has to kind of be, it's completely different, right? Whether they're training for surfing or football.
Yeah, I mean, I make it specific for everyone, whether they're in the same sport or not. And I think something that I've been really good about probably in the past 5 years is creating body-wide protocols. So you know, it's really common for you to be in the gym and be very static and not moving, whether you're just sitting there squatting up and down or on a bench pressing back and forth. those are important aspects in terms of gaining strength. But in sports, those movements aren't really too present. It's more about creating movement and how can you be strong through certain movement patterns. So I'm always trying to force myself to learn new things because, if you want to get better, or you want better results, you got to force yourself to have this real thirst for knowledge. And, I'm in here constantly. And if I'm not with somebody, you see me in here like playing around with certain movements because I'm trying to figure out how to create the most muscle recruitment for each and every athlete. And that doesn't mean that you have to go squat 500 pounds if you're a football player or bench press all this crazy weight. It's more about how you move. And if you compensate, how do I fix that compensation and how do I create balance in your body? So I really just try to make the programs very specific to the individual and make them the best version of themselves.
And is there any crossover, would you say, like from sort of making these programs for athletes and then sort of taking elements from some and then maybe using them for others? Like, does that sort of work, or it just varies, I guess?
Absolutely. Obviously, certain sports, these athletes will be better at doing certain things, whether it's cardio-based, strength-based, power-based. But it's actually kind of funny because the amount of athletes that I work with, it challenges me too. I'm like, well, I never thought I could use that for someone in this sport, but I think he can actually benefit or she can benefit from that. So it's sometimes pretty interesting for me because, the people that come in and out of here, they're basically human Ferraris, and I get to work with them each and every day. And every so often, the turbocharger when it comes in here, and I'm like, wow. And it's really cool to be in this part with them because this is the part that people don't see. And being involved in that is special, and it's a small piece of what they do. But they're really special people, and it's pretty cool to see them even interact with each other. Like some of these athletes would never get a chance to meet one another ever, but when they come in and out of here, whether this guy's finishing up his workout and they get to meet a skateboarder, they just start talking and they have so much respect for one another. So that part of it, being in here is pretty cool as well.
Well, that's a good story. We obviously we signed Chase Elliott, was another early sign that we did, and again, like I didn't think we'd get NASCAR. Seems like such a monster thing, and old school like energy space, but it's a big energy consumer. And we had the opportunity. I met Chase through some people in the industry. He just Rookie of the Year, legacy dad racer, Bill Elliott, 25-year-old champ. And I was like going, wow, if we're ever going to be in NASCAR, like that's like the only guy I would ever sign because he's the young next gen. And everything we're doing is always, we're talking about next gen and the evolution of the category, the progression of the sport, evolution of not just the beverage itself and energy drinks getting healthier and better for you, but even athletes and who can be. And so perfect, huge opportunity. And we signed Chase and, he won the championship. It was awesome. And so Joe was training Freddie Freeman, Atlanta Brave at the time. And that's how we met Freddie, because Joe was working with Freddie. Freddie was coming by here just kind of hanging out. And it was like, hey, what's up? And then the what's up became 3 months of him being here. And then, hey, we're in this round. And eventually Freddie became an investor partner, and we did a deal with Freddie. So it was a cool moment. At the time, he was a Brave. Chase is from Atlanta, kind of area. So we got the two of them together, but you got Freddie Freeman and Chase Elliott in here, basically training together with Joe, and just such a cool moment. And I'll have to say now for the record, because Chase did tell his fans at the time, he goes, okay, everybody, I did my best, because he wasn't signed yet, and they didn't know if he was going back to the Braves or what was going to happen. And obviously we're all proud now because he became a Dodger. So selfishly, not so good for Freddie at the time. I think he had his whole career with the Braves, but yeah, so some cool moments like that have happened here at the gym, which is really cool to see the crossover between athletes that Joe brings here to train with us. And it's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Good stuff. Joe, thanks so much for sharing your insight on the gym, and it's going to be good to see sort of what the athletes are up to, and kind of we were talking about sort of like Lakey like earlier on, but obviously all the others that are within the team, and sort of like the behind the scenes that you don't really see, you know, you don't really hear about it sort of when they're competing. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, Joe.
Stuff. Nice. Cheers, Joe. Scott, I was going to ask you about the so sort of talking from that and like campaigns and sort of what you guys are working on with the athlete as well as with A SHOC, and if there's any kind of like different things that you've got coming up with the main line or accelerator. And yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think now that we have the athletes, it's like bringing that story to life. It's funny, you know, Reach Your Peak was a trademark. I had Reach Your Peak day one. It was like we had this great icon of a peak and Reach Your Peak. I kind of kept thinking, I always talked about like, if, you know, we were the Nike of energy, right? If Nike had an energy drink, what that, some of those things. And obviously who doesn't look to Nike? If you're a brand guy, you're always like, what's Nike doing? You know, like, cause they've done it so well. And so it's funny, you know, I feel like a lot of things, like we had this great trademark, but we're so young, how to even use it and bring it to life, because it's like, it was almost too good and you're so little. Everyone's like, that's, you know, so we're growing up now, and we actually do now have these amazing athletes. And so we are in the midst of filming production with our big talent and really showing that training, fitness, sport combo, this whole Reach Your Peak moment for each of these guys, whether, you know, it's Paul or a Billy moment. But last week we filmed, we had a day with Freddie Freeman. So we captured that content. We're going to be hopefully getting out to New York to film with Aaron and, you know, kind of have this moment a little bit, you know, with Lance's run with BodyArmor. If you think about when BodyArmor came into the space against Gatorade and Powerade, it was like, you know, again, like good luck, right? Like these guys are just dominating and, you know, but, you know, once BodyArmor brought on the athletes and these guys became a testament to the change. Again, BodyArmor was more natural, was a little healthier, was better for you than all the sugar in Gatorade and all the artificial ingredients and things. And so I kind of look at us the same, coming into that space and being better for you, but now finally having people that can help tell that story, right? So now it's like, how do we bring the brand to life, and really finding the right agency to work with. And it's all about digital content now too. And look at, we're on a podcast, you know, it's like with you and, you know, this world now, and it's like, how do we get our story out and tell the story? And so, we're in the midst of, you know, filming our Reach Your Peak, you know, athlete campaign that will start pushing, you know, media content out, you know, this summer. I mean, it was, you know, another guy, you know, we signed recently, we did a deal with Brooks Koepka. He's a professional golfer, investor partner, same thing. You know, and it's interesting. You know, I never was like, oh, well, you know, what's cool with, I think, our brand, because it's, you start to go like, wow, you're in NASCAR, you're in golf, you're in football, you're in baseball, like, but why it all works is because at our core, we're about fitness and training and healthy, active lifestyle. And so we went out and we filmed that campaign, and that's the centerpiece. No matter if you're a skateboarder, a surfer,
it all links back into the fitness and the whole lifestyle, right?
Yeah, it's about fitness and about training, and no matter what sport. And then it's about just everyday people. I mean, that's the biggest one. It's like, what we want to do is inspire. So you got to inspire that just weekend warrior too. It's like, not everyone's going to be Freddie Freeman or Aaron Judge, but you can inspire to be that. And, you know, and the same with surfing. It's like, we're not going to be Billy Kemper, but you and I could go surf tomorrow, you know. Might not go surf, you know, Chopu, but I'll definitely get a good one somewhere. But yeah, so I think, you know, that's kind of finally bringing that story to life and being able to show that through our athlete partners. I think that's the best part. And then, you know, and then also just the evergreen stuff, which I call is just our fitness campaign, our active lifestyle campaign, because really the accelerator line even goes further into what I just call active lifestyle. So you still, like our core line, the 200 milligrams will still lean a little more towards probably more male, probably a little more gym, like training and, you know, or someone that wants that bigger hit on the caffeine. And then as you get into accelerator and more women coming into the space, people just need energy. People go get coffee in the morning. They're not always going to the gym. let's face it. I mean, that's a part of it. So you talk about fitness and training, but when you really break into it, it's when you become just that lifestyle brand where, hey, I need a little pick me up. I don't want a soda with a bunch of sugar. Don't feel like a coffee right now. How are you going to get your dose of caffeine? And so, that's really kind of where Accelerator starts playing into that space. And we have a really cool campaign running right now. It's Evolve Your Energy. But it's actually, it's like a Palm Springs shoot, and it's a bunch of girls, it's like a fun weekend in the desert, and they're like, it's like a pool party, and they're on the golf course, they're playing pickleball, and it's just it's fun. It's a total different side of the brand that we've been running some media against. That's really cool too. And it's really broadened up our audience and our consumer base even more. But yeah, so that's been exciting. And obviously the big news this summer, we launched this guy. This is our
nice
tropical punch.
Which was like an artist collaboration, wasn't it? It's like one of the graffiti.
Yeah, so it's with OG Slick, LA street artist from Hawaii. And we were, we had done this a little bit in Monster, but I've always loved that opportunity to work with an artist on a can, or try to, and printing on cans is crazy. It's not as easy as people think, because you only get like 5 colors instead of make it all come to life. But we had the idea, the flavor was pretty dialed. And I was like, God, what could take it over the top was just like, we started thinking about floral prints, and then it was like, wow, what if we collab with an artist, and, with his roots being from Hawaii, LA guy, it was like kind of the perfect combo for us. Yeah. And it's actually just on fire. We launched this flavor this year, and I don't know, we're all like going, we're looking at the other cans now that are all solid colors, like, wow. It's become one of our top sellers, like Walmart's, and where we have the brand right now. We're seeing some really good turns on the can. I think it's the design, and obviously the flavors that I get dialed in, but it's like the perfect hit of tropical. But yeah, the can's super cool. So that's kind of another fun thing we're doing this summer.
Nice. Cool. And if people want to kind of follow what you guys are up to, or if they want to get in contact with you directly, what's the best way?
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, obviously, our site's, ashoc.com. Follow us on, at A SHOC Energy, on Instagram, and on our social, and soon to be TikTok. We, will be at A SHOC on TikTok, doing some things on that platform as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, A SHOC Energy, ASHOC, no K. That's where you'll find us. Or if you're in Newport Beach or around in Orange County, come by and see us.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, Scott, thanks so much for running me through what you guys are doing, like the whole history behind it, that whole kind of the challenging times of launching, during a global pandemic, which is nuts. And then, making it through, and it's going to be exciting to see what you guys are up to. And then, all the sort of future collaborations, and seeing how the team grows and all the sports. It's going to be cool.
Awesome. Appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
No worries.
Good to see you. Get some waves this weekend.
Cheers, man. You too.
Take it easy.